Welcome everyone. I'm very happy that so many people are present despite the late hour, but I do hope you will say that it was worth listening to a presentation on our role in the case of protecting juvenile audiences. Now, why are we present here? Our name, the National Broadcasting Council, is not really associated so much implicitly with internet, but we are here because in 2013 an amendment of the broadcasting law became enforced, which means that entities that demand audiovisual service on demand need to protect children and young persons. Now, what's important, what you should know is that this is a part of implementation of European law, the implementation of the European Directive on Audiovisual Services on Demand. That's first of all. Second of all, the law was amended only in a small part related to the internet, so we're only talking about VOD, audiovisual services on demand. So we are not able to view the internet in a comprehensive manner. Such phenomena as sexting or cyber violence do not fall within our remit. We can only focus on VOD services, so those services that provide us with visual materials on demand. Second of all, we are bound by the territory of the Republic of Poland, which means we can only use our regulations, we can only apply our regulations to the service providers who have their headquarters in the Republic of Poland, or if we are able to prove that their decisions are taken in our country. Looking at protection of children and youth, we have four models of protecting the youth in Europe. So the first one is the hour of transmission, the protected time, which is the least used protection model. It's quite interesting because that protection model is sort of transferred from linear media, from TV to the internet. So the content that is risky for children's pornographic content or content containing unjustified violence can only be transmitted at certain hours. This is used in the Netherlands, France, and Germany. Now, the last type of protection is applications or profiles dedicated only for children. As far as we know, we do have such applications in Poland. They are implemented by the Orange Foundations, among others. But I'd like to talk more about the system of graphic symbols, which is the most common all over Europe, and parental control. In terms of the system of graphic symbols, they might be imposed by legal regulations. Now, what's important is the fact that the system of graphic symbols results from our legal regulations. In Poland, we have the broadcasting law and a special regulation on marking broadcasts with graphic symbols depending on the audience. Now, up to 12, starting from 12 years old, 16 years old, and a little key, which means as of 18 years of age. We've got one more category, which is Law 18.4, which is content jeopardizing the development of juveniles, and they must be protected adequately. We're talking about pornographic content and content with unjustified violence. I'd like to show you an interesting system of graphic symbols that comes from the Netherlands. It has been developed similarly to the computer game systems. It comes from the Netherlands, and we are thinking about a double symbol marking. So due to the age of the audience, but also there's symbols showing what kinds of content we are dealing with. So, for example, fear, violence, sex, discrimination, alcohol, or bad language, explicit language. Now, last point, parental control. The application of a PIN code, or also in Poland, a supporting element seems to be considered as the fee system. You need to pay a fee, which you have to use your credit card for, or a bank transfer. So this is my word of introduction. This has been the theory. Now, how does that relate to practice? How does that directly translate into guaranteeing juveniles with any kind of protection over the internet? Well, it doesn't have such a bearing as you would think it would. The system of controls, the PIN code system, is observed if we're talking about the legal internet, the service providers who have committed themselves to respecting our regulations, who have signed the Code of Good Practices, and if they provide any content that is dangerous for the development of a child, they do it according to the rules. But I will not tell you anything completely new. Well, our doctor told us today how many pages there were with pornographic content. 4 billion, was it? We, as a regulator, have tried to take a look at this part of the phenomenon that is relevant in Poland. We have been doing our research since 2014, so the data dates back to 2014. The first monitoring took place in 2015. We have analyzed 56,000 websites, and among those websites, the research methodology that we applied is also key. We have designed a web crawler which would search websites, pornographic websites, according to keywords, and then using the snowball method, when it found a given website, it would get referred to another one. That's how we collected our analytic material. At the end of the day, we have identified 635 websites that could be linked to the territory of Poland. Because let me remind you once more, we need to have a Polish provider in order to deal with content on a certain website. There were almost 200 that that were within our remit, VOD pages. Half of them, 108, were those where the service provider was responsible for the content. We have found 25 service provider who we sent letters to, summons to. The case was also reported to the police. Now, a year later, the results of our action have surpassed our expectations. The web crawler did not find so many web pages to start with. Not to mention that out of 193 VOD services, only 36 were still available. The number of service providers also fell. The number of websites also diminished. So at the first stage, our action turned out to be a huge success. All the providers almost all the providers got adjusted to what we have said in the letters. Those websites were sold, they are not operational, they are under construction. Some of them have changed their range of activities. They are not a VOD service anymore, and we cannot deal with them within the regime of the broadcasting law anymore. One of the providers was fined with 30,000 zloty. That is more than 7,000 euros. Two more are impossible to reach. I mean, we see them again. They have not complied with our demands, but we have wrong contact data. This is yet another example of our lack of effectiveness, which I will come back to. Now, let me tell you that we worked in two ways. On the one hand, the president of the National Broadcasting Council sent a letter to those providers. On the other hand, we also contacted the prosecution with those cases because it was a crime in our opinion. Now, in terms of the actions of the prosecution office and the police, it's a topic that I could spend an hour discussing. Well, the police and the prosecution do not think it's a crime. They refuse to start any proceedings. Fortunately, the district court stated that that decision was justified and the investigation has been reinstated. However, it's still going on, and since July 2016 we have seen no effects. Now, this is a wrong slide. The last control was not performed in October 2017. I made a mistake here, but the last audit we have had dates back to August 2017. We have run the third monitoring, and what's important here is the fact that we changed our methodology. Also, we wanted to check because perhaps we were looking in the wrong way because there are so few VOD pornography sites. We wanted to confront ourselves with other data. We asked Jimmy's Poland to prepare a complete comprehensive list of pornographic websites used by Polish users, and it turns out that a full database that pertains to all Polish internet users includes 1,500 websites, but only 550 websites can be verified by us, because we can use the DNS databases and NASC. About 1,000 pages are unable to be verified by us. Or perhaps let me show you the data. What did those websites contain? What does Polish pornography look like in 2017? Above all, you can see that, or perhaps that's related to some of our actions, those websites are not operational. So 22% of the pages that we had verified, did not include any pornographic content anymore. 21% would send us somewhere else, but VOD in the Polish internet equals 21%. Now, yet another slide. Let me remind you that we have changed our methodology, but still I think it's worth showing you the results, because I think they do reflect reality. They're not only discrepancies related to a change in the methodology.
Percentage of non-operational websites has grown. I hope it is thanks to our actions. Note how much the percentage of the VOD market has dropped over the 3 years of our activity. 31%. From 31% down to 18%. Now the market's rebounding, reaching 22%, but never going back to the original condition. It's somewhat at the cost of the pornographic images market. In 2016, you can see that the services were transferred from VOD elsewhere in order to avoid being covered by our law. After all, this is our interpretation. Well, I'm running short of time, but I still have some data to show. Let's look at this third monitoring round. The number of VOD services has been growing. Out of 196, it's dropped down to 36, but there's a rebound already visible. But the rebound is not visible to us anymore, i.e. the providers are not visible to us anymore. Out of 108 websites in 2015, we could identify only 5 cases of a known author. Also, there's a shrinking number of providers who might be identified. I think this is also an outcome of our work, that the percentage of websites informing about the pornographic content has grown. Well, to us, this is not a successful security. Well, if a user can see such a panel with pornographic info, it might entice them to use it after all, but it's a deterrent for younger populations, so this result I think we should welcome. Coming back to the main topic of the presentation about the role of regulators in fighting pornography markets. Well, I think the role is quite important in that our actions reduce the number of Polish web services, pornographic web services, and it's corroborated by 3-year-long research using various methods. The number of content-sharing entities has shrunk, and most importantly, the Polish pornography market got a signal that it was not anonymous and that it was subject to our regulations. However, on the other hand, does it change anything when it comes to kids' safety on the internet? Well, it doesn't. And it is shown by the most recent studies. Out of 1,500 pornography websites used by the Poles, only in some cases we can intervene. And I think we will do it and will eliminate the content. Well, my time is up, but if you were bearing with me for so long, you'll bear with me for 30 seconds longer. So why aren't we successful, fully successful? Well, it's not only a question of protecting minors. Geolocation is the main enemy of legal content in the web, because we can intervene only in the case of Polish providers. Also, we have not enough operating power. We've got universally available data we source from DNS, and it's very easy to prevent us from seeing the data. A physical entity might set up any website, and then there's no obligation to specify the data in DNS. So then we cannot see the provider in question. Without the cooperation with the persecutory bodies, we can only do so much. Although this is not the final message I want to leave you with, especially that it was the last presentation, we'll do our utmost. We'll continue our research. We'll look for allies in Europe. Maybe we'll be able to join forces with other organizations on the European level. We'll look for further contacts with persecutory bodies, law enforcement bodies, and, well, we keep doing what we do. Thank you very much.